Good afternoon, guys. So today is 12th of May, and we will have to cover the current news of today. The first news is 26 people killed as Israel target Gaza with airstrikes. I hope you remember Gaza Hamas. Yesterday, I have told you about the whole story that what has been the issue with respect to Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, the country called as Jordan, followed by Egypt and Iraq. So we have understood all the history yesterday regarding the issues that were involved from 1947 to till date and what were the developments regarding that. So now the escalation have increased to such an amount that the terrorist group who was involved in Hamas, as the name of Hamas, and was situated in Gaza Strip. I have told you multiple times, please look out for those locations where the West Bank is located, where Gaza Strip is located. You should locate some of the items that are of very much concern to both the countries, including Israel and Palestine. So I will give you 3 and 4 markers. You please locate them where they are situated on the map. Lake Tiberias, that is the first you should locate. Second one is West Bank, Gaza Strip, and then you will, forgetting the name, just alongside of Red Sea, there is a territory occupied by Egypt in the neighborhood of Israel to the southeastern corner. Found what is the name of the territory to the southeast corner. Okay, you should remember these 4 5 items with respect to the Israel, and that would be enough. The second one is article is related to the Moody's lower India's growth projection to 9.3. So for obvious reason, you already understand there are downside risks associated with the exponential rise with respect to the cases in coronavirus that have led to the possibility of decreasing the growth rate by all the major institutions all around the world, and Moody's have also declared the same. They have talked about the dragging that will happen because of the increasing cases and the lockdowns, partial lockdowns and the full lockdowns that are imposed by different states amongst one another at different times. That is going to curtail the economic activity. Apart from that, there are still shortages and logistic incapabilities that are currently reeling under the health sector, creating much burden, and sooner or later they are not going to be resolved as soon as the Indian government would hope to be. So there is going to be increased burden and a possibility of a third wave, fourth wave, or fifth wave. Although they have not made it specific, but their tone was such that they have projected that there is a possibility until unless the Indian government will do something about it, these lockdowns will continue happening in India and will be a concern for the world if the same process happens day in and day out, and no other facilities are being ramped up specifically with respect to the healthcare and the medical facilities. Okay, इसको ध्यान रखिएगा. Okay, further moving on. The next article is related to the matter of concern. So please understand, WHO has declared the virus variant, that is the double mutant that has been found in India, B.1.617, as the virus of concern. And some of the media channel have reported, please understand how the Indian thinking is currently going on. Too much nationalism is opium for the country. If there is too much nationalism, it is basically going to destroy the critical thinking of a particular nation. So the media channels have reported that the Indian virus has been reported as a variant of concern. This is what they do for sensationalization of the things. So advisory has been issued by the health ministry that WHO have not said that it is an Indian virus. It is a virus which is originated in India, which is a variant of concern. Okay, I hope you understand this. क्योंकि हिंदी स्लैंग जब हम यूज करते हैं तो इट इज कॉल्ड एज इंडियन वायरस, द वायरस दैट इज फाउंड इन इंडिया, बट द इंडियन गवर्नमेंट वांटेड टू बी रिकॉग्नाइज्ड एज अ चाइनीज वायरस और अ कोरोना वायरस. So that is what the nationalism will actually do to you. You are not talking about the basics and the things that are needed to be clarified, but this is what the government is doing. You can read it on the health ministry website. You will find a particular notification, and in the PIB a clear classification and advisory to the media channels to follow the same. Now, coming on the topic, this is not the first virus of concerns that is not declared by that. This is not only the virus of concern which is declared by WHO. Other than this, we have another viruses that were found in United Kingdom, South Africa, and Brazil, which have called as a virus of concern. Apart from that, why there is a objectivity to declare a virus that is of concern? So there are two conditions that are prior to it. First of all, there should be high transmissibility, and second one is the evasion with respect to the diagnostics. These are the two things that are needed to be taken into consideration. Now, in a state like America where the infections were high, please understand there was not a mechanism, a domestic mechanism to declare a virus of concern, because you have to provide the genomic sequence, and on the basis of that you have to study the factors and the transmissibility of that particular virus, that how it is infecting one person to another. So that is how the things are being mentioned, but under this they have not highlighted any of the other things, although they have raised a concern. The Indian government is basically trying to do on the positive. If we talk about the sidelines, the positive thing is that the vaccines that are available right now are effective on the new variant also, but we can't be very sure until unless there is a new mutation, and it could be a possibility that after the new mutation the vaccines will be rendered not useful on the new mutant virus. So these are some of the things that should be known to you. The next one is the losing trust. So this is with respect to the condition for the constitution breakdown in the politics of the Nepal, where the party was supposed to be, or the CPN was supposed to be, ensure majority within the house, but it failed by a majority of I think 93 to 124. The persons who have voted against it, the 124 persons who have voted against it have come from the different party. Now under the protocol, if you remember last year, in the constitution of the Nepal, there is no provision that is provided in the hand of the Prime Minister to dissolve the parliament. So this case went to Supreme Court. Supreme Court reinstated that whole of the parliament needed to be restored. There is two conditions that are prerequisite to the formation of a government. First of all, if you have a leader in the house, he should constantly be having majority for becoming the PM of the state. He can only remain PM if he enjoys constant majority within the house. Now, no confidence motion, he is not supposed to be brought against him within the first year and within the last year. And within 2.5 years, there is only one no confidence motion that can be proposed against him. If there is a no confidence motion, there should be an alternative government that should be ready, and an elected member from the house who should be ready to take over the prime minister in the first place. So that was the whole issue. Now the task is in the hand of the president of the state, that is of Nepal, to elect a candidate or to ask for a candidate from the opposition party, that is 124. That is the total number of amount vote that is needed out of the 232 member House of People or House of Representative Nepal. तो आपको 50% majority चाहिए. If you do half of 232, that will amount to 116. तो वो just majority pass करे हैं 124. So the no confidence is passed. That means Mr. Oli will be removed. The 124 who have voted against, they have a task to elect a new leader that should be supported by at least 116 members. Once they will support it, they will be basically electing a new president of the state. Please remember, there is no concept of defection in Nepal parliament. The defection concept is in India, that you cannot vote besides party line. Therefore, you will read in this particular article that as there is no defection, as it happens in India, therefore some of the party members of Mr. KP Sharma Oli have voted against the provision that was announced in the, against the no confidence motion, the resolution that was moved in the parliament of the state. So I hope this is clear. The next news is related to the COVID mishandling foretold in the budget. So this is a criticism with respect to the budget, that how much money has been allocated and what the government is doing. It is seriously questioning the government. If you want to read about the whole issue, first of all, he says that in the present year budget for the fiscal year 22, there is no allocation for the fighting and the vaccination program that is needed. The budget was only provided for the last year, in which 35,000 crore has been allocated. So these are allocated this year, but the actual money has still not been allocated in any manner, although they should be mentioning under the healthcare budget, but they were given as a loan to the state government, which was not as desirable as they should be. Now, इसको पढ़ लीजिएगा, डिटेल में जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. He have only criticized the government, that what the government could have done, what they should be doing, and what is the knee-jerk vaccination policy. Essential vaccination, why it should be declared as a public good, and the finance minister should know the budget, prices and vaccination of the people. The estimation should be there. but she have not presented a fact or a white paper on anything, that what is the amount of money that would be needed, how much amount of money has been allocated, and what are the things that are being proposed. So these are some of the things that have happened. Now, next one is evaluate the Ladakh crisis, keep China at bay. Now, please remember this article is one of the best article I have seen in the previous month with regard to the issues in Ladakh with regard to the control of China and how do you control it. So please make note of this particular article. He have explained it in a pretty fair manner. What are the practical considerations on the ground, what we can do and what we cannot do. So rarely you see such articles, so I prefer you to please make notes of this. And if examination with respect to the Ladakh crisis or any of the LAC crisis comes on border, if you write this article or the points that are mentioned in this article, definitely you will get 7 out of 10 marks. Okay, पूरे marks तो किसी को नहीं मिलते, but you will get 7 on the higher side in this particular answer if you read in the same manner. So how does he start the article? He says, after 1 year of the crisis between China and India, there have been still disengagement that is going on. It is currently stalled because the talks are fruitless. We are not going to talk on the borders, and there is hostility and distrust among the two nations, more specifically from the point of view of India, because India has been betrayed. This is what we want. Now, in the domestic compulsions, if you see, Mr. Modi has been projected himself as a leader who is currently active about protecting the borders. So there is no option to him to be passive as with respect to the Congress government, who would give certain leeway or give certain lands or do not try to antagonize China in one way or another for the lucrative deals with respect to the trade and businesses that were we cutting. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now, if the disengagement needed to be continued, the relationship that is currently we are having, it is quite vulnerable that it will remain to the peace accord that would have been signed between two countries. So the possibility of a success is also very narrow, and there is a high possibility that new disputes will arise anywhere on the border with respect to the land, whether it happen in Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh or Jammu and Kashmir. So there is an increasing possibility that it would happen. Now, what are the studies that are being published? And there is a study that the crisis right now that is currently having and the India's competition with China. The writer in that particular article, which is written in the Lowy Institute, have said that New Delhi have 3 key lessons that are needed to be considered with respect to the engagement or having a strategic advantage with China or a competition with China. First of all, he talks about revamping strategies. Now, how does you revamp the strategy? First of all, the sole crux of this article or the first point is that military strategy based on denial are more useful than strategy based on punishment. Now, what does we mean by that? That Indian government, whatever she was told to uphold, she denied that particular program. And in the way, they have basically occupied something which provided a leverage to the Indian Air Forces. I hope you remember, Indian Army, after the attacks, as the negotiations were going on, have occupied a more favorable position with respect to China that provided a certain leeway for the ceasefire on the Kailash mountain. That is what have happened. Now, therefore, in making the same statement, he have said that in the military, the strategies when you have, if you adopt the strategy on the base of denial, that I will not accept this, I am not going to do this, but then you do the same, they are more successful, or basically you can say the military strategy based on betrayal is more useful than the strategies based on punishment. So if you try to engage them hand on hand, there may not be a particular leverage, but if there is a betrayal, that would be more advantageous. Now, in the case of Indian military doctrine, as you have already seen, Indian military doctrine basically do not want to engage in any forward war, specifically with respect to larger countries such as China. So we are based on deterrence of any kind of aggression. We have advised that if we will not attack anybody first, but if there is an issue with regard to the sovereignty of the nation, protecting the boundaries or uncalled for aggression, then retaliation will happen at a more severe and more extensive manner. I hope this is clear. Now, this theory of denial was also useful to India because it provided more capabilities for India, because when you look at the problem with India, India does not have much glamour to offer to the Chinese people or the Chinese army, because we have a small army. Chinese have huge defense budget. They have huge possibility of engaging into a punishment war when they will try inflict war on one another. But if you do something that was not supposed from you, that will provide you a certain leverage with respect to the Chinese army. So therefore they will talk with you because you are on a dominant position now. The second one is the political cost. So when we talk about political cost, there are two costs that are associated. There is political cost, there is material cost, or you can say the social or the perceptual cost. When we talk about perception and the strategic issue, it is very true that the material cost is not going to bother China. If you kill their people, you destroy their machinery, they have huge defense budget, that is not going to create a big hole in any of the Chinese policy. And they are also not bound to basically relent under the pressure, the punishment that India will engage upon them. So the political costs are the other thing that we should be focused upon. India should play a role and coercion should be provided for non-military punishment. So therefore we did the same. Now all wars are not fought on the battlefield, some are fought behind the battlefield. So therefore what we did, we banned the IT sector, we started reducing the exports, imports, we put Huawei and the other 5G players who or the companies that they want to work in India, we have initially allowed them, and then we actually turned over to the domestic manufacturers to take the lead in the 5G technology or the 5G trials. These are some of the things. Now China does not also want an hostile India in the neighborhood, because a hostile nation means a nation that is constantly trying to drive you away from the objectives that you want to achieve in the South Asia. So that is what they do not want. On the other hand, the accidental escalation is also there. Another thing that is needed to be avoided, because India have made it clear that if there is any form of escalation, then the trade talks cannot go further. And this is the same philosophy and the things that they should be having. So it is also should be clear to the Indian authorities that China could not be contained individually by India. So what we should be looking for, we should be looking for certain other like-minded countries who could create a type of alliance among themselves that will act as a deterrence and would give a sense to the Chinese authorities that if they do not do something or disengage from the border, there is a possibility of India going directly into the hand of the hostile powers with which China have not very good relations. So that could create a problem for China, because military is not going to create any problem for China. Military damages, they can again rise up, they can again send the more military strength to the borders. The next one is the Indo-Ocean region is the key. Why it is a key? Please understand, the entire Himalayan region, even if there is a possibility of any intrusion or any possibility of backlashes, clashes, or overt objective by the Chinese authorities, the gains that China will make will be very less. But in the Indian Ocean region, it have a huge ocean to lose, huge allies to lose, and huge things to lose. So India, even if it is losing some land in Ladakh, as it is recognized by the reports now that India have settled for whatever land that they have claimed earlier in less, India have settled for land which is less as compared to earlier. So that has been the stated position, but Indian government have not admitted it. There is no pressure on the Indian government to admit it, because whenever we are talking about fighting an enemy, we can fight them, or we will fight them in our own place and in our own battlefield. So we can look out for Indian Ocean region, we can build alliances over there, we can have maritime expansion, the military modernization if it had to happen, because there is a compulsion that sooner or later the military modernization had to happen. But if we focus it on the border areas, there will be small gains. But if we focus it on the Indian Ocean region, specifically he's talking about that army should be only for defense purposes. The majority we should be expanding capital wise the navy, because Indian Ocean region is going to be certainly important, and it will also give a type of a challenge to the Chinese authorities to basically contain the rise of India in the naval powers. Because in the navy, if India start increasing the capital expenditure, that will send ringing bells across China that if they do not engage with India, and a hostile India will be trouble for them in the whole of the Indian Ocean region. And the boundary that we have been provided along the Indian Ocean and the presence of Indian subcontinent with respect to the geography. If you see, Indian subcontinent is present between two of the major seaways of the world. India is present in Indian Ocean, which accounts for the major export of petroleum, major export of commodities, and from Singapore, the major export of all the spices to the European nation. So nobody want to lose that particular route. Therefore, India has been specifically important with respect to the geography. We can use that geography to our advantage. This is what his suggestions are. Apart from that, finally, he suggests that of course it will need political will, central government will, bureaucracy and the civil society to all come together. There is a need of a huge budget expenditure which the government is ramping up now, but ramping up only the one section of the part and not the whole society. We have to create small batches with respect to the theater level command, in which the usage of resources among the three defense forces could be combined so that more facilities are not needed and a standardization should be issued between the three forces. Right now, you should remember, Army have their own helicopters, Air Force have own helicopters, and Navy have own helicopters. So all three are different up to some extent in the operation and the other part, but you should consider that if there is a simple tweak with respect to the pooling of resources among different forces, it will be beneficial for the defense budget also. I hope this is clear. ठीक है, तो इस आर्टिकल को ढंग से पढ़िएगा. बहुत 3 पॉइंट याद है, तीनों पॉइंट आपने याद रखना है. रिवैम्पिंग स्ट्रेटजीज, कॉस्ट एंड द इंडियन ओशन रीजन इज द की. The next one is the not all crises are opportunity for reforms. So a lot of people are asking for reforms right now, and Mr. Babu is not of the opinion that this is the right time to basically go for the effort, go for the reforms. Now there are two similarities and two differences with respect to the 1991 reforms. If you remember, in 1991 there was an economic growth crisis, and basically it was believed everywhere in the world that whenever there is a crisis, people are more conducive to change. They will make efforts. The law is easier to pass. The people have already seen the legitimacy of the prevailing norms, and therefore they want something new that will work for them. They have already experienced that beforehand, that what works and what not works. And as they have seen, they want a reform that is needed to be done. Now, when we talk about, most of the times there is uncertainty and instability with regard to the reforms, and that would have created a type of a situation that would provide a better chance and better favorable condition for the reforms to be passed. But he says when we compare these particular two issues, there are 3 or 4 questions that we need to ask. First of all, if the reforms are happening, do all crises be conducive to the reforms? Could it be a possibility that once you push the reforms, the crisis will turn to a bigger crisis? The second question, he says that the need and urgency is as certain, but the rules when they will be formulated, are they going to be upholded, or they were just the demand of the time and not favorable for a longer term? So we will have to look out the reforms in a larger time of frame and not be adjudged by a smaller time of frame in which the crisis is there. Second one is, whenever there is a urgency to push the reforms, the legitimate issues and the issues that are pertaining to the things or the reforms that are needed to be debated, the debate generally takes a back seat, and urgency to do something takes a forward seat. So already we are seeing it. We are not debating in the parliament. The government is trying new things and just hoping that some of it will work. But nothing is working as of now. Okay, so these are some of the things that are needed to be debated. Apart from that, if we compare 1991 and 2021, he comes to a direct comparison of the two. He says right now most of the people are saying that right now it is a good time for reform because we had the same crisis in 1991. Please remember, in 1991 there was only a domestic crisis. The revenue was gone. In the case of India, this time the revenue is nowhere near the whatever we used to earn last year. The second one is the international market and the domestic market both are going through a slump. Apart from that, the expenditure reduction is not a viable strategy right now, because at that particular time in 1991 there was a decline in the reduction or the expenditure of the government. But this time the reduction is not a viable strategy, because if you reduce the expenditure, the private sector and the investment is not working. So therefore, if both of these are not working, it will be impossible for the Indian economy to get revival once again. Okay? Other than that, there have been immediate problems that are in front of India. First of all, there are a lot of people who have now fallen into the poverty, and they are approximately 75 million people, 10 lakh people who have fallen into poverty. There have been approximately 27 crore people who have exited from the middle class. They are needed to be, how they should be uplifted. The programs are needed to be built around them, and not the other way around, that it is a time to push the reforms. So in the end, he have made a statement that summarizes the whole of the article. He says that all the crises do not inevitably lead to possibilities of reform, but may do create opportunities for fundamental changes within the leaders, class, and societies. Okay, so he does not believe that crisis is opportunity. He believes that crisis is not a inevitable situation to reform. That if there is a crisis, it is not an inevitable condition that you should reform. You can avoid the reform, but you should create opportunities for fundamental changes. But there should be some fundamental changes, that is true. If there is a need, some fundamental changes can be pushed, but the fundamental changes are needed to be judged on the merits of the issues and not on the crisis that is currently prevailing. Okay, I hope this is clear. This will also happen in the, actually I think he have read somewhere psychology, although he is a professor of economics. But in psychology, this is generally experienced. When people are going through a lot of crisis, they make very hard, you can say, a decision that does not make sense to anybody. So the fundamentals needed to be solid. If the fundamentals are solid, definitely there is a need for reform. You have acknowledged that. But if you are in a form of crisis, the decision that you are going to take, a lot of people take the decision for the sake of it. They do not think about the fundamental changes that are needed to be required and needed to be done. So what are the fundamental changes? So for example, if you take the preparation itself, there are some fundamental to the preparation of UPSC. You have to read the newspaper. You have to be well versed with the NCERTs. You have to know the history, polity, geography, and environment. Other than that, you have to study and practice, or you have to analyze things. Now, a lot of people think that with reading of the magazines and all the monthly that come by the end of the month, you are going to pass the examination. No, sir, it will not happen. Because there is a crisis in your life, you have opted for the path, but the possibilities of the reform is needed. You have acknowledged it. But it does not mean that it will give you the result unless the fundamental changes are put in place. If you put the fundamental changes in your thinking, habit, and learning, there is nothing that is going to change. You will study for 3 to 4 years, but nothing will happen. No outcome will happen to you. Okay? So, isko dhyan rakhiyega. The next one is how to adopt a child legally. So when we talk about the profiteering, please read this article on your own. I will just give you 2 or 3 points that he have said. He says that right now a lot of children are being given to family for adoptions in the name that both their parents have died and they are taking huge money. The second one is the legal procedure is not publicized enough by the care agency, that is the Central Adoption Resource Authority. Resource institution, or where is the care authority is? Central Adoption Resource Authority. Yeah, it is not CARE, it is CARA. So CARA is basically responsible for inter-country and intra-country adoption, and it also provided, if we talk about the total data, that according to UNICEF there are approximately 3 crore orphan and abandoned children that are living in India. Now they are directly on the risk of being exploited, trafficked, or even slave trade in certain professions and other things. When we talk about juvenile justice, that is the case in the protection of the children law that was enacted in 2015. This provided for the constitution of Central Adoption Resource Authority, which will regulate, monitor, and provide for the control or type of interface by which the people can adopt. However, a lot of people do not know it, that this is the agency that they had to apply. They generally settle their agreements with the local people, and the local people are also keen to give away the children which they cannot afford. Now, apart from that, when we talk about the Hindu Adoption and the Maintenance Act, under this particular act, all the orphan, adopted, or surrendered children can be adopted from any organization, and they had to not be considered under the violation of the JJ, that is the Juvenile Justice as a adoption rule. Okay? So, दो provision है. From the Hindu Act, you can adopt anybody. You do not have to go to the CARA authorities. On the other hand, in the CARA authorities, if there is a Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Act of Children that was passed in 2015, under that the CARA will provide the background check, the facilities, the needs, and the license and the certificate that you have been adopted. Okay? So ये सब चीजें थी वो चल रही थी. Other than that, the institutions are also regulated by CARA. The adoptive parents, whether they are living in India or living outside, they are also declared. Whether they have their name registered with respect to the seniority list. Because if there is adoption center, there is a seniority list that is being provided, that for how long you have asked for adoption, and once the children will come and specific requirements of children will come, then they will be provided, or you will be called for. ठीक है, तो सिचुएशन ऐसी चलती है. नॉट ऑल द चिल्ड्रन आर बीइंग अडॉप्टेड. सम ऑफ द चिल्ड्रन, इट इज जस्ट लाइक बाइंग पपीज. यू बाय योर ओन ब्रीड, यू बाय योर ओन कास्ट. ठीक है, ऑल्दो इट seems humiliating to the individual, but this is how the things and the selection of the adoption is generally happening. But then the associated problems are also related to it. Some children are bought for trafficking, some children are bought for household works, some children are just bought for slave trade in certain professions. So these are the things that CARA need you to be concerned about. Other than that, there is illegal adoption. Not many people know about the illegal adoption. When they adopt somebody, the legal processes are not publicized. Even some mothers are also doing the same thing. They are telling or selling their children because of the coronavirus pandemic. All those activities are needed to be. You can certainly assume that if the parents are dying, or one of the parents are dying, the other parents may have a possibility that he will give away his children, specifically with respect to the poorer families. So there is a larger possibility that the children will be more up for adoption. The children would be more vulnerable now. They would be more trafficked now. So the government need to tie up its boot and look out for the things that are going to happen after the COVID. So these are the dimensions you should be keeping your eye upon. Okay? Although this is not mentioned in the article, but I hope you understand what I am saying. It is also going to create much problem for the children below the age of 18. And the problems after the families or the family support is lacking with respect to the containment and the survival in the life. ठीक है, क्योंकि हो सकता है उनका कोई भी ना रहे, या वो they have to live with somebody else. They have an extended family, but the extended family relations are not very good, and the children are not able to understand at the lower age to the extent in which they could be exploited. So these are some of the things that are going to happen in India. Indian government and the other agencies should be wary of it. More probably the social justice department, the juvenile justice officers. Apart from that, the women, child and development ministry. These are some of the things who should take a leap in that, because the ministry's work is not finished now. The work is currently starting after the COVID have created havoc in the families of the individuals. Okay, इसको ध्यान रखिएगा. Okay, next one is the Maratha quota. Uddhav writes to the president to pass a special law which was struck by the Supreme Court. I hope you remember the 50% extension quota has been struck down by Supreme Court on the reasoning that Marathas were neither educationally or neither socially backward, and there exist no exceptional circumstances with respect to the applicability of reservation to Maratha community. And they have never said that the extension above 50% should not be there, but they have suggested that 50% is a perfect balance of merit and social justice, and you need not to upset that particular balance. Otherwise, the idea of merit with respect to the democracy will seek to diminish, and every other community in India will start to demand reservation with respect to the caste-based population that they have currently in India. ठीक है, बहुत बड़ी बात कही थी सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने, हमने पढ़ा था उस समय पे. Okay, further moving on. PM Modi will skip the G7 visit. So he was a special invitee, so he will not go over there because of the coronavirus pandemic. I'm still not able to understand why he have not addressed the Indian crowd with respect to the cases when they were 4 lakh. But we have seen this attitude of Mr. Modi in the time of crisis, that whenever there is crisis, he never comes forward. He always gives explanation after the crisis are over. By that time, 2 things happen. First of all, the people would not question him as seriously as they would, because then the people will be more eager that why he did not do it. Okay, I hope you understand. If the crises are committed, please understand this is basic human psychology. If you understand, if you are told later, definitely you are going to question why you did it. You are not going to question the harsh question at first. So these are some things that happen, and politicians do on multiple times to play with the psychology of the individuals and the people. We should be aware of these people who do not tell you truth upfront with respect to any other thing. So this is what Mr. Modi is also doing. And the media should be more aware to question him on every point and every issue. Even they should ask the government विद रिस्पेक्ट, क्योंकि हर बात पे तो कॉन्फ्रेंस करती हैं, व्हाई दे डू नॉट पुट अप द क्वेश्चन दैट व्हाई नॉट Mr. Modi is addressing to the public and talk about the situation that is happening in India. I have now never seen any question that is raised directly against the Prime Minister. Chaliye. Further moving on, the next news is related to China's population slowest rate in decades. So China's population have grown by 5.38% in 10-year timeline, and year on year it has grown by 0.53%. So the population is 1.41 billion in 2020, and it is sure to decline as the policy of the China have said, the political paper, that by 2025 India would be the most populous country of the world with least amount of resources. ये least amount of resources जो हैं they will always skip. So India will be the most populous country with major demographic dividend of approximately approximately 39 crore, as I can assume 43 to 42, approximately 42 crore people who will be the demographic dividend or below the age of 18 years. Other than that, there are 63% of the population that will of the Chinese people in the age group of 15 to 59 years, and above 60 the population is seeming to be increasing from 5.44 to 18.70%. The reasons, as stated by the Chinese media paper, is the one-child policy that was formulated by the government. Even after the relaxation in 2016, there was not change with respect to the lifestyle, priorities, and the other issues in the Chinese society, and they have preferred for only one child. And from 2016, the policy has been relaxed, but there is not substantial change that is currently seem to be found out. ठीक है, तो इसको पढ़ लीजिएगा. Next one is what happening in Jerusalem. So already, I think yesterday I have explained it to you, the whole situation with Jerusalem. If you do not understand anything, you can read this. I am not going to explain it here. Next one is Saudi aid for 123 million announced for Pakistan. Imran Khan in Riyadh on 2-day visit have provided, but that is majorly for the humanitarian assistance, and it is related to the social, education and societal welfare as a whole. Why this visit was announced? Because there was a type of a fracture that have developed between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan with respect to the issue in which Pakistan have raised concern that Saudi Arabia is not doing enough for the injury to the Kashmiri people, and it should raise its voice against the Indian authorities, or actually apprehend the Indian authorities with respect to the thing. So Saudi Arabia got very angry with that. They have asked for 2 billion or the 4 billion money that they have extended to Pakistan. 2 billion of it was asked back, and from that 2 billion now 123 million has been extended to Pakistan only as a societal welfare. So Imran Khan मांगने तो बहुत गए थे, and there was also a meme that was doing rounds on social media that whenever there is a world meeting with respect to IMF or World Bank, तो उसमें आई थिंक यू हाल ही में भी आपने वो TVF की कोई सीरीज थी, उसमें एक डायलॉग था कि आर्थिक स्थिति ठीक ना है हमारी. तो उसी तरह का पाकिस्तान का मीम बनाया हुआ था कि एट एवरी IMF मीटिंग एंड वर्ल्ड बैंक पाकिस्तान विल रीच विद इट्स बाउल ऑफ बैगिंग एंड विल से कि आर्थिक स्थिति हमारी ठीक नहीं है, तो आप हमारी मदद कीजिए. So that are the things that are currently doing the rounds, because they are also doing the same. They do not have any option. So now they are giving steps with respect to FATF and the other issues that are being debated, that how the procedures needed to be changed, how the judges are needed to be appointed, what form of resolutions and the amendments are needed to be passed, so that a fast track court would adjudicate the provisions that are needed for booking people or giving punishment to the people with respect to money laundering and trafficking. ठीक है, तो ये सब चीज़ जो है they are doing the rounds. The next one is the microfinance sector urges RBI backing for emergency credit support. I hope you remember the microfinance institutions are suffering very much with respect to the liquidity crunch, because the money is not coming back, so are not able to basically replicate the capital. So they have asked for that more money should be provided as a type of an RBI should act as an emergency credit line reviver. So whether the government will do it, of course the RBI will do it, because you cannot angry the farmers. That is what you should understand. So these are some of the things that are being debated, and I think sooner or later there will be a package that will be announced specifically for the microfinance institutions who are supporting to the small businesses and the other wholesale retailers or shops or any other small businesses that people want to run. I think that is it for today.